Ladies and gentlemen, my name is BrendenPlayz, and this is Total Extreme Wrestling for our All Elite Wrestling save. It's been a little bit since we played our save, and I know we need to catch up to what is happening in the real world. What are we, 6 weeks behind the real world at the moment? I know All Out's already taken place, and they are on their way to full gear. Well, we need to get there. We need to start moving along. We need to get ourselves caught back up, and we need to get ourselves to All Out, and that's the plan right now. So, some things have been happening in the world of AEW as of late, and I know there's some signings we need to make. Well, the good news is we've updated our game, we've brought in some fresh faces, and we're going to be signing some new talent. So let's take a look at who we're going to be signing. So obviously Rusev has now joined AEW, and look, at the moment, I don't agree with how they're really utilizing Rusev. I think that he's come in and has been very underwhelming. Now, I was never a big fan of really signing Rusev, and I didn't really have any plans to do so. But now that we pretty much need to keep things a little bit more accurate, I feel as though Rusev could be a really strong addition, and he's got 59 popularity, so he could potentially be one of our next main event talents, so I'm looking forward to bringing him in. Will Hobbs, I like the potential in Will Hobbs. He has a really good look, and he's going to be, I feel as though, a big deal at some point in his career. Maybe not yet. Obviously, he doesn't have much stats for us that we can really work with, but we have an idea of what we're going to do with him when we do bring him in, at least for the short term. Serena Deeb, she's also joined AEW as well. We're going to bring her in, and at the moment, Serena Deeb, she hasn't got a lot of popularity, but what she does have is some decent mic skills and some good enough ring stats that, she can work with any of our women and should be able to perform a pretty strong match. And Vicky Guerrero, of course, bring her in as a manager for Nyla Rose. She's got 74 mic, 78 charisma, 81 acting as well. And just come to think of it, another person that, we could potentially bring in as well is Thunder Rosa. AEW's been using her quite a bit, so we might sign her as well. We will bring her to a handshake deal, and we'll just kind of sign her per show, and we'll give her that, and we'll use her on a bit more of a short-term basis, and that might be able to plug a bit of a hole in our women's division. Let's take a look at her stats. 28 popularity, which is pretty good. We can definitely work with that. Mic skills a little bit low, but the star quality is definitely there, and the wrestling stats are certainly there as well. So as AEW's kind of used her in more of a prominent position for the short term, that might be something we can do for ourselves going forward. So a few new additions joining our ranks again, which is already exciting. We already have quite a few as well, considering we just signed Eddie Kingston. So what we're probably going to do is we're going to emulate some of the things that's been happening in the real world. Now, I know some things we've kind of went a different direction ourselves, but we're going to revert back and kind of go with what we are liking. For example, FTR, I'm going to give them Arden. I'm going to give Tully Blanchard to them. I feel as though that would be the right thing to do. I think he's been a really strong addition to the group, and I feel as though that would be replicated as well in TEW. And at the moment, I'm really torn. I'm thinking I'm going to go in this direction, but I feel as though I'm going to give Ricky Starks Taz as his manager. I originally didn't like the pairing, but now that Tully's kind of got FTR, I don't think it makes sense to have Sean Spears and Ricky Starks with Tully Blanchard. I think it probably might be better to have Taz have someone else as well as Brian Cage, just to utilize Taz a little bit more. And so far, I really like what we've seen from Ricky Starks. I believe he could really get it done on his own. Probably doesn't need a manager, but I think his mic skills in the game here, 53, 48, 47, are very, very low. So he might need a bit of a bump up as well. But I'm looking forward to seeing more of Ricky Starks in the near future. Speaking of Ricky Starks, one of our matches that we've had, one of the ideas we've had for a match for All Out has been a Future Stars match. Basically, some of the hot prospects in AEW, all the kind of the young or new talent that's come to AEW competing for a chance, and the winner will get an opportunity at the TNT Championship in the future. That's kind of where we're at. So we're thinking Darby Allin, we're thinking Ricky Starks. I think Will Hobbs would be perfect for that as well, to kind of showcase him. And look, I think one way to kind of introduce Rusev in a, well, of course, he's now will be known as Miro. So one way to introduce Miro into AEW effectively, maybe, is for him to win that Future Prospects match. Now, you might be thinking, well, he's not really a future prospect. He's already kind of a prospect. He's already, successful. Well, I guess you could kind of have it as though it's, newcomers to AEW, or up and comers. So, Rusev would fall, or Miro would fall under the newcomer category, I suppose, and we need a genuine excuse to explain it. But nonetheless, a good way to debut. I'm definitely not going to put him with Kip Sabian. I do not like that pairing at all. I think that is dreadful. And there will be no video game mentions. He's not going to mention or plug his Twitch. We're going to try and keep Miro as a dominant, I think maybe babyface, honestly, but we'll have to wait and see what we need. I just feel as though we've got way too many big heels already, and Rusev, whilst he hasn't got the height, he's certainly got the size to kind of make him more of one of the big guys on the roster, certainly in comparison to some of the guys that are there. So we'll have to definitely use him in that way, and I feel as though babyface may be the way to go with him. So some of the newcomers that are certainly we're looking at and bringing in, and some of the ways we're going to utilize them there. As for All Out, well, look, we're going to do Lance Archer and Brian Cage. The Best Friends Super Dad Death Squad, I think we're going to end that storyline. That's done. We won't worry about that. Britt Baker and Hikaru Shida, looking forward to that one. Cody will take on Ray Phoenix, and we've got Brian Pillman kind of, being aligned with Cody on the short term. Cody still is the TNT champion in our game, and I'm going to keep that. I was not a fan of him dropping the championship to Brody Lee, and if you've been following the series, you know that I'm not really crash hot on Brody Lee at the moment. I think Brody Lee's been a very big disappointment, so I'm happy just to steer clear Brody Lee in a prominent position for now. We're going to do FTR on the Young Bucks. We're going to execute that match. And we were hoping to have the Sex Gods versus Omega and Page. Of course, Kenny Omega is injured in our save here, so we won't worry about him. But what we will do is, I feel as though I'm kind of deciding, and I might let you guys in the comments decide, Adam Page versus Chris Jericho, which is what we've already seen that match, or maybe Adam Page versus Sammy Guevara, and Adam Page picks up the win instead, and it kind of sets up for the big tag team rematch in the future. And obviously Kenny Omega is injured at the moment. He's going to be out for, I think it's another month or so. Let's take a look. So 33 days. So we could definitely do the tag match rematch at our next pay-per-view, which is a little bit further away, and then maybe we could do the split or the turn there. We are looking to turn Kenny Omega on Adam Page, rather than Page turning on Omega, which I feel as though may end up happening in the real life. We'll have to wait and see. So after All Out, we don't have another pay-per-view until the second week of November. So quite a far distance. I feel as though that may be too far away, and rather than having that tag rematch take place, then maybe we do the tag rematch take place in the early October and do Kenny Omega and Adam Page at Full Gear. That might be the way to go instead, considering Revolution's also in February. It's quite a fair distance away, so we might just have to do a big Dynamite special instead. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We're going to move into booking our next edition of Dynamite. So if obviously some fans are back in the real world, so we're going to start introducing fans to our show at All Out. So that'll be the first event where we have fans coming back. Until then, we're going to still stick with our guns. We're going to still keep using, the wonderful Power Factory, which holds about 100 fans. That just is a way to represent having the COVID issue there. So we're going to go ahead and book AEW Dark, and we'll be back to show you the results. Okay, let's take a look at the results of this week's AEW Dark. We kick things off with Penta L0M. That is apparently his new name, so we're going to stick with that. Penta L0. He's taken on Chuck Taylor. We wanted to see how Penta's kind of going as a singles. We're going to be using Ray Phoenix in a prominent role against Cody, and obviously Penta's going to be involved in that too, so get a bit of an idea of where he's at as a singles. 64 from him. He took on Chuck Taylor and beat him. Chuck Taylor with a 50. That's kind of surprising that he performed that good. Overall, a 62 rated match. That will definitely be the best match on the show, I feel. We then had Tully backstage with Ricky Starks and Shawn Spears. Now, we mentioned earlier on that we're looking at getting Ricky Starks away from Tully and Spears. That was our original plan. We're probably getting Starks involved with Taz. So Starks having a bit of a disagreement with Tully and Spears about Matt Hardy. So Matt Hardy will be in our main event later on tonight. So Tully's kind of devised a plan, and Ricky kind of has plans of his own. He's not really all that interested in their plan. So a bit of a disagreement there of what they're going to do. 41 rated segment. So kind of teasing a little bit of dissension already there with those guys. We then had a MJF and Jon Moxley hype video. So I realized we actually haven't really started a storyline between MJF and Moxley all that much. So we really need to kind of ramp that up and really drive that through in the next coming weeks ASAP. Janela and Kiss took on Proud and Powerful. We had Santana Ortiz 61 and 62, Kiss 37, Janela 47. So obviously we have really underutilized Proud and Powerful so much. I've realized that, that's one of the best tag teams going around, and we're not really booking them at all. So we have decided we need to start basically booking them more and potentially getting them in the mix for the tag team titles at some point. Janela and Kiss, just a throwaway team. I don't care for them at all. So happy for them to take the loss here to put over Proud and Powerful. Anna Jay took on Mel. 9. This match was rated 9. Oof. Anna Jay 22, Mel 29. Look, I am a fan of Anna Jay, and I think she's got a huge upside, lots of potential. So I'm trying to get her going, but my goodness, this is going to be an uphill battle. Oof. This is not going to be easy. So 9 for that segment. Mel was okay. I've got no plans for Mel. Happy for her to take the loss, but Anna Jay needs some popularity ASAP. We then had a video hyping up Abaddon, so we haven't forgotten about Abaddon. We want to start trying to getting her a little bit of popularity, get her in the mix, because she's basically, apart from Nyla Rose and Awesome Kong if she ever comes back, she's really the only, bigger, woman in the division. And even, take that away, if you look at her, she's really the only one with a really out there, weird sort of gimmick that's different from everyone else. So that's an advantage that she's got. So something unique that she brings to the division. So I definitely want to use her as much as I can going forward. Then we had Matt Hardy take on Jack Evans in the main event for 52. So in the end, Ricky Starks was meant to try and cost Matt Hardy the match. Instead, he ended up helping Matt Hardy win. He failed to interfere properly and actually hit Jack Evans in the end when he was meant to get Matt Hardy. So Hardy 56, Evans 41. And afterwards, we had Shawn Spears and Ricky Starks arguing, not happy at all. Spears was furious as Matt Hardy celebrated his win. So 43 for that one. Overall, a 54 rated show. Not too bad. Obviously, the one real stinker of a match with Anna Jay and Mel, but the rest was okay. As I said, in the last few streams, I've been kind of talking about utilizing Dark a little bit more and kind of progressing more storylines. So that's kind of my plan with Dark. Rather than having more throwaway matches, really trying to drive in and progress some of the storylines that we might not get on Dynamite and making it more of a secondary show rather than just a throwaway show just to have matches, which is kind of what they do in real life right now. So we'll go ahead and we'll get booking for our next edition of Dynamite, as we really need to start building some of our storylines, because All Out is really not that far away. Well, this week's edition of Dynamite is booked. Let's go ahead and check it out, and let's see what happens. So we're going to kick things off with Tay Conti. She's now got the new name, of course. We're bringing her in, and we're going to make her a baby face. Looks as though, basically because we are kind of pretty heel heavy a little bit in the women's division. Tay Conti, I think she's kind of gearing towards being heel and real, but I'm happy for her to be more of a baby face for us. She had a better match than Anna Jay did, that's for sure. Tay Conti 25, Mel 31. So we tried Mel again, and happy for Mel to continue to lose, and Tay Conti picks up the win. Kick things off, and yes, here we go. Great promo. MJF trashing Jon Moxley. So last time we had Dynamite, MJF laid out Jon Moxley to basically announced to the world that he's coming for the AEW Championship. Now, Jon Moxley is hurt. He has to take the week off, and MJF is free to talk as much trash as he wants. 81 rated promo, incredible start to really get this storyline underway. And that's what we want to see from MJF. His promos are his strong suit, so he really needs to capitalize on that, and he's done so perfectly here. The Sex Gods took on SCU in a non-title match. Obviously, the Sex Gods as a team is a really great duo, and I feel as though having them go around and face majority of the teams in the division is a great way to really boost everyone as a whole. And this is an example of that. SCU, they've had some losses as of late, but this is a great chance for them to kind of get back in the mix. Guevara 72, Jericho 74, Kazarian 59, and Daniels 64. And of course, the Sex Gods, they won thanks to the interference from Jake Hager. So I might just change their name to the Inner Circle, I think, rather than the Sex Gods. They don't really use that name anymore, so we might change that just to either Jericho and Guevara, or maybe just the Inner Circle, which I'll probably go with the Inner Circle. Nonetheless, great match, really good stuff. Tony Schiavone is backstage talking to Darby Allin as he announces that there will be a future star match, and he talks to Darby Allin about the match and what it could do for his career. 57 rated, which is really good. Especially Darby Allin promos, you wouldn't think he'd be that good at it. But Brian Cage took on QT Marshall next for 52. Cage with a 68, which is great to see. QT Marshall 27. Quick win for Brian Cage. We wanted to give him someone of a little bit more substance than what he's been getting, because Cage and Archer, for example, just been beating scrubs and hasn't really been getting them over. In fact, he's been losing them popularity. So we almost need to have those guys taking on some better opponents rather than just the real bottom of the barrel. So I thought QT Marshall would be a good example of that. Try him out, and I feel as though it worked. 52, it's not too bad. We followed it up with Jake Roberts. He was out there with Archer. Cage was with Taz, and obviously Roberts and Taz went back and forth, a heated discussion about the upcoming Cage and Archer match. 60 rated. It did lose heat, which is a little surprising, but nonetheless, a good promo back and forth. Cody teamed up with Brian Pillman Jr. for the very first time to take on Dark Order's Alex Reynolds and John Silver for 67. It's a bit of a tag team heavy show in some ways. So we're running a storyline at the moment where Brian Pillman is kind of Cody's protege in a way. Like, he's learning the ranks, learning AEW, and kind of learning all that from Cody. And we're setting up a Pillman Jr. and Cody match against the Lucha Bros. So that's kind of where we're headed. I thought we had still needed to do the Phoenix and Cody match, but we did that already at Fight for the Fallen, which was a great match. We're going to keep that storyline rolling, though, with Pillman Jr. now introduced into the ranks there. So Pillman got 39, so he's not going to perform that well. He's going to drag things down, but what he will do is potentially gain a lot of popularity out of working with Cody and having good matches with Cody. So that's the plan there. Because I like Pillman Jr. I think he's got a lot of potential. He's got a good look about him. So I think he needs to be utilized a little bit more. And this is a great way to kind of do that and have Cody continue to be featured as well. And he took on Silver and Reynolds. They had 43 and 38. Someone needs to turn. So who needs to turn? Okay, so Penta. Yeah, so that's right. Penta's currently a face for some reason. He was set to be a face when realistically he should be heel. So I'll just turn him and get that over and done with. Next up, we had the promo. So Cody challenged Phoenix and Penta El Zero to a match at All Out. 79, great start to this storyline that's really going to pick up some steam, I feel, and get Pillman Jr. involved as well. So good stuff there, really like that. 79, some good promos so far on this show. Adam Page had a singles match against Santana. Obviously, Page has been dealing with the Inner Circle as of late with Jericho and Guevara. So I figured, not a bad guy to get him in there. And of course, we mentioned earlier on, we haven't utilized Proud and Powerful all that much. Yes, it's a losing effort here, but getting Santana involved with a match here, he took on Adam Page. Page 69, Santana 57 for a 72 match is really, really good. Britt Baker's backstage and she cuts a promo on Hikaru Shida. So last Dynamite we had Sheeta get beat down by Britt Baker. So this time, Britt Baker is able to kind of talk about what her plans are for Sheeta coming up at All Out. Jungle Boy took on Stu Grayson from the Dark Order, and Grayson picked up the win thanks to a bit of interference from Evil Uno and the Dark Order. He got the win with a roll-up. Jungle Boy 52, Grayson 44. So I actually thought Grayson would perform quite well here, or if not, at least have some better popularity. I thought his ring stats would be good enough to kind of carry him to a decent match. And to be fair, I think he has about 29 pop, performing at 44, which is good, no doubt. But obviously, the Dark Order are kind of feuding at the moment with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. So there we go. Eddie Kingston talked about his loss recently to Jon Moxley and his future in AEW. So we've got Eddie Kingston. Obviously, promos are his best. I really believe Kingston is best suited leading a stable, which is what I suggested that AEW do with him when he first signed back with them. I don't know if I'm going to put him with Butcher and Blade, but I definitely think him with the Lucha Bros is a great combination. I don't mind that at all, and that might be able to take them to the next level in our division. So I might do that pairing, even though, you know, that was one of the two pairings that I mentioned that could work. So we might go with that. We'll have to wait and see. But Kingston, I think, will be a real asset for us if we use him right. So I'm looking forward to kind of getting my hands on him and seeing what he can do. Next up is our main event, MJF versus Orange Cassidy. Big test for MJF. Can he be a main event caliber wrestler? And look, a 66 from him. He was outperformed by Orange Cassidy, which is a little bit concerning. Overall, a 73 rated match, which is really good. No doubt about that. But it's always concerning when Orange Cassidy does that a little bit better than you. But nonetheless, I was fine with it. MJF picked up the win. Wardlow interfering and helping MJF win, as pretty much always happens. But MJF gets the win. Much needed one. And look, 73 is good, and that will continue to build some momentum for MJF and Jon Moxley going forward. And Orange Cassidy, you know, we're not going to really using him as a main event level guy or as a high profile name. But what we will do is utilize Orange Cassidy in a role where he can work with a lot of good guys, because he does have, you know, does unfortunately perform pretty well in matches here in TW. So we've got to utilize him in some way, and that's one way to do it. He can work with some of the top names and take the loss. Overall, we had a 71 rated show, which honestly is one of our best Dynamites in a long time. So I think we got the balance right. We had a couple of good, strong matches with some good promos in around it. So I liked what we did here in this one, and we didn't have anything that really lacked in substance at all. So I liked what we saw. So I'm very happy with what we were able to produce. So 71, really good. Let's take a look at our results. So we might start with NXT first. They had a 68 rated show, so good to see that we actually beat them. 1.87 TV rating for them. Their main event was Io Shirai and Candice LeRae, which was actually better than our main event, so go figure. Chris Statlander is fully fit, so she's fully 100%, which is great. And Dynamite had a 1.02 rating, 766,000 viewers. And AEW Dark recently got 14,000 viewers, so that was from last week, that rating there. So in comparison to our other shows, so 766,000 this week, which was not as good as what we normally do, so a little bit down. Even though we had a better overall show, we still dropped. And I think that was our best Dynamite to date. Yeah, so that was our first Dynamite that we've been able to hit into the 70s, and it took probably, realistically, we had 3 to 4 really good matches in the show, so kind of took an overall really solid show to really bring that together. We might take a quick little look at some of the popularity swings if there was. MJF was one that I was hoping, 58 popularity at the moment. Are we seeing any progression? A little bit, looks as though maybe, yeah, 57 to 58, which is very positive. Ricky Starks had some interactions. He's at 21 pop now, which is good. Who else can we take a look at? Adam Page, good match from him. He's really moving into the 60s. Cody had a big night. 66 popularity from him. So he is moving up as well, which is obviously fantastic. Brian Pillman Jr., he should have probably the biggest change here in this episode. So he's had 18 pop, 22, 26. Now that's more 19 and or low 20s. So he's moved up a couple of points as well, which is great to see. Obviously, Pillman Jr. would be great for the Futures Prospect match, but we're going to have him in that tag match with Cody instead. So, we definitely thought about that. Sammy Guevara at the 50 mark after some good results. Orange Cassidy had a good night, 46 pops, so he's still doing pretty good in terms of his popularity as well. So things are looking pretty good. We're moving up. We're starting to get some guys a little bit more over, and obviously we've got some new prospects on the way. Someone we did sign as well is Matt Cardona. I haven't even debuted him yet. I don't believe. If I haven't. No, I haven't debuted him yet. So he's another guy that we've got on a limited time deal. So we might be able to utilize him in a short-term storyline as well, like pretty similar to what AEW did as well. So some good names, some good talent that we can utilize. We just got to keep getting their popularity up and up. Lance Archer 46, Brian Cage, he's at 48. Two guys that we're kind of struggling with a little bit. So we have to kind of book our bigger guys a little bit differently, a bit smarter, which is something that we've realized, we mentioned earlier. So hopefully we can start executing that a little bit better, but we'll keep on advancing. Alrighty, so we've moved on to the next day. Let's go ahead and take a look at the contract situation. So Will Hobbs will sign his contract. So he's got about a $6,000 per month deal, given him 3 years. I'm going to bring him in as a babyface, I think. I think that'd be the right decision for him. Looking forward to seeing Will. I think he's going to be a good addition to our roster. Serena Deeb will join as well. I think a babyface is the right call for her. So I've given her a 1-year deal, $5,000. A little bit pricey, but hopefully she'll pay off as a bit of a veteran in the division who can work pretty good and maybe try and put over some of the younger talent if need be. Or maybe, if she's that good, we'll just give her the push. We'll give her the push and let her be the star. I don't know. I'll make her a babyface. And Thunder Rosa, well, so she's got a handshake deal, so pay per appearance, 6-month deal, so short-term basis. Now, it seems as though she's a better heel. Now, we'd have to take a look at our women's division a little bit more in depth to make that decision. What is the best thing for her? Look, that's going to be difficult to see. So, in terms of, let's get rid of just make it wrestlers only. So, there's a fair few baby faces there. Now, keep in mind, Riho, she's out at the moment with the COVID away thing. Same with Sadie Gibbs and Shanna. We're not really using them. I think Shanna might even be gone from AEW. Yuka Sakazaki, she's gone as well. So really, most of them aren't that available for us. We're not going to use them because they're not really available. Whereas the heels, most of them, apart from Emi Sakura, they're all available. So I think the wise thing would be, if we're iffy about it, would be to make her a babyface. It does probably mean that maybe Sheeta and Thunder Rosa wouldn't be a great idea, but I think Thunder Rosa could take on Ivelisse or Diamante or Britt Baker. I think we're going to give Britt Baker the championship anyway, so that probably would be a fresh matchup coming out of that anyways, would be Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker. So we'll go with that, and it gives us a couple of new additions to the roster. I feel as though we've got a nice thing happening here. Will Hobbs, let's have a look. So he's got a set to debut the embodiment of willpower gimmick. That's fine. That should be okay. Can't see anything wrong with that. Serena Deeb's a fan favorite gimmick as well. And Thunder Rosa, she'll have a mysterious gimmick, which should be okay. I can't see anything being too wrong with that. So that should be okay. So for the most part, that should be all good. So 2 good additions to the women's roster, and Will Hobbs, I'm quite excited to see how he's going to go. Let's have a look at his stats. So he's got 79 star quality. So his promo skills are not great. He may need a manager. Now, I have no idea who you would put with him. I'd have to probably think about, actually, I think someone like Arn Anderson, he's kind of wasted with Cody.
But someone like Arn Anderson could probably be a good coach for Will Hobbs, for example. You know, someone like that, or maybe we'd have to bring in another legend, but you know, I think he would be a really good addition. He's got 64 menace as well, which is pretty good. But for the most part, there's enough decent stats. There's nothing great, but there's enough there that you could probably work with. Okay, so some more contracts to look at. So Miro will complete his signing as well. So they recommend him being a heel. Now, let's take a look. So he's probably going to be one of our main event guys. So we'll take a look at our stars and see who we've got. Now, for the starters, we don't have that many, as you can already see. But baby faces, looks as though we're heavier in that department. Chris Jericho and MJF are our genuine top of the line main event heels. Then the next tier would be Park. And then we've got, you know, those guys we've been slowly working on. Cage, Hager, Archer, Brody Lee. There you go. 4 bigger guys all working their way up the ranks, with Hager and Brody Lee realistically the closest out of them all. Then you got Rey Fenix and Sammy Guevara, not bigger guys, but certainly they've got a lot of momentum, so they're moving up the ranks. So 4 big guys all in that, you know, middle of the pack. So Rusev would go ahead of them all, but at the end of the day, you know, there's not much else from then on. So we switch it back over to the babyface side of things. Do we have a good amount? We do. We got a lot of guys here in this middle of the card as well. Let's just keep it a male. This is the babyface side of things here. And this is kind of the recognizable, so pretty decent. Now FTR, they are heels. They will be turning, well, they should be probably turning any minute now, maybe next week, so forget about them. But you can see really only Darby Allin in that side of things, in the middle of the pack. Then you got Matt Hardy, and it's not until the main event guys again, where Kenny Omega, he's going to do the turn soon. So Rusev would probably slot in pretty nicely in that, you know, main event level as a babyface. He would just kind of lack a few guys who are on his same level to feud with, but he may be able to help elevate some of those bigger heels, because there's some good matchups there for him. You know, for example, you know, he's got Brian Cage, Lance Archer, those types of guys that he can kind of work with. Park as well when we bring him back. So Cage, Hager, Archer, Brody Lee, some good guys he could definitely work with. We can look for the bigger guys, but then also if we want to go a little bit smaller, you got Pentagon, you got Phoenix, Sammy Guevara. I think there's some good matchups there for Rusev, so we might go with that. Chris Jericho is also finished up in New Japan, so we won't have to worry about Chris Jericho getting potentially injured, which is great. He just had a match with Tanahashi and he lost, so 88 rated match, so very good from Chris Jericho. You know, Chris is obviously declining. He's not performing all that well for us. So Steve Corino's contract is up as well. The other thing I'll be interested in is his commentary. He's got 71 color commentary, so he'd probably be an okay option, but we are pretty good with commentators right now. So let's bring in Rusev. I'm going to bring him in as a babyface. He's getting nearly $24,000 a month, so big money contract. We need to make the most of it. Vicky Guerrero, I've just got her on a paper appearance deal, so I'm not too worried about using her very much. I will let her manage Nyla Rose because, you know, we don't really, you know, there's nothing else I really need Vicky for. So we'll let Vicky manage her, and I think that's not a bad combination. It's something for, you know, to add a little bit extra value to Nyla. And Rusev will, of course, now be known as Miro. And I'm looking forward to seeing how Miro goes in our company. And as I said, I think we might debut him at All Out as a surprise appearance in that future prospect, that future stars match, I suppose you could say. Because I think, you know, whilst he is a star, he isn't a star in AEW just yet. And we'll also add Will Hobbs to that storyline as well. So that will be the Fatal 4-Way match. We're going to do Darby Allin, Miro, Ricky Starks, and Will Hobbs. I think that'll be a really solid match. Miro being a part of it will just elevate that a little bit more as well. So he'll win that. That'll give him a TNT Championship match. And then maybe Miro might be the guy to beat Cody for the TNT Championship. I think that might be the right way to go. And that can really start Miro off in a really strong way, because I'm not a big fan of Brody Lee at this point. I think Miro, I was a big fan of Rusev. I think he really had all the tools to be a top guy in the WWE. Just didn't happen. So can we try and make that happen here in AEW? I think it's worth a shot. I think he's got the skills, 72 charisma, 78 acting, pretty solid. 83 star quality is huge, really huge. And then he's got all greens basically across the board of his wrestling stats, down the low there. And up higher, he's a good brawler. And that's, decent psychology. So there is plenty there to suggest to me that he could deliver 70 plus performances with the popularity that he's got. And that's main event quality. Absolutely. And if we're going to give the championship to MJF, Miro versus MJF would also be a really strong match as well. So it gives us a few options, definitely. So whilst originally I wasn't really that excited to have Miro on our roster, I think we could really make it work. I think he could really be a strong addition to the team if we use him correctly, and that's the big if, isn't it? So considering he's 35, he's still in the prime of his career, he's still got a lot of potential, he's got the stats to back it up. I can't see why, as long as we, don't make him Kip Sabian's buddy and a video game player. As much as I love video games, I don't really care for my wrestlers to love them as much as I do. So I think if we steer clear of that, I can't see why there is any reason why Miro would struggle. Well, let's finally look at the SummerSlam card. So they did Drew McIntyre versus The Fiend in their main event, with Drew McIntyre remaining champion. Braun Strowman beat Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns for the championship. Undertaker and Brock Lesnar teamed up. Well, there's a combination. They beat Daniel Bryan and Rey Mysterio. How did The Undertaker perform? He performed at 79. Not bad. I tell you what, that'd be a hell of a tag team. Anything else really? Nothing else. So overall, a 77 rated pay-per-view. Who? The Guard Dogs, Shinsuke Nakamura, Dolph Ziggler, and Bobby Lashley. I can't believe that is a team. The Guard Dogs. Wow. There you go. Well, I think with that being said, we'll leave it there on the Guard Dogs. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like on it, subscribe to see more. We didn't do the live stream today, but we did kind of like a recorded version of stream. I might do some of these from time to time just so we can speed up and keep playing TEW, considering that, we are kind of behind of what the real world is doing. I would have liked to have been at probably full gear by now. Instead, I'm only at all out. So we're very much behind the schedule that I want to be at. So we're going to try and catch up, and we'll do a few more episodes like this way. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.